welcome to HCB, where today is predictions for the Boxing Day and 27th of December games / week 19. Happy Christmas Eve, everyone. Hope you are doing well around this festive time of year. I know I am, despite my team's form and where we are in the league, but we're going to ignore that and we're going to go into the games. We start off with the early kickoff on Boxing Day, which is the Bobby Zamora derby as Spurs host Brighton. Spurs, both sides coming off losses at the weekend. Spurs losing at home to Chelsea, meanwhile Brighton losing at home to Sheffield United. The last time these two sides met, and I should point out this is the first round of fixtures of the season where this is the second time these sides would have played in the Premier League. So earlier on in the season in October, Brighton obviously coming out 3-0 winners against Spurs, and I remember that game very well because it was my my friend's birthday, who is a Spurs fan, and he was fuming. It was quite fun to watch. If you also remember the first goal where Hugo Lloris pretty much just gave them the goal. Other than that, that was Brighton's first win against Spurs in their last 5 meetings. The other time Spurs have won all bar one, with the last home game of this fixture being a 1-0 win for Tottenham Hotspurs. And one thing Brighton do need to consider is the fact that their away form is not the best. I don't know why did I sound. I was going to say Italian. I don't think I was even Italian. They've only won 2 games away all season, but both teams are in London, Watford and Arsenal, if you count Watford as London, which I think they are. They are in London. Meanwhile, Spurs, probably their shining light has been their home form, 5 wins out of 9, despite the recent result against Chelsea. Overall, I believe that Spurs are going to pick up the win here. It's going to be close, but especially looking at Brighton's defending against Sheffield United, I'm sure that a more capable team like Spurs, with Harry Kane, is going to pounce and they are going to score goals. As I said, under Mourinho, it's been tight so far, bar the Burnley game, so I believe it will be tight again, because Brighton are a good side, but I'm going to say it will be 2-1 to Tottenham Hotspurs. We now move on to the Grant Holt derby, not Hulk, as Aston Villa play Norwich in a must-win game for both of them down near the bottom of the table. Both sides coming off losses at home. Villa's to Southampton, meanwhile Norwich coming off a loss against Wolves. Earlier on in the season, of course, Villa beat Norwich away from home 5-1 in one of the most embarrassing results for Norwich this season. I should point out both sides have got identical records when it comes to their last 10 fixtures between the two sides. Villa have won 5, Norwich have won 5. There hasn't been a draw. Is there a no-draw curse for this game as well, like there was for Bournemouth-Brighton? Again, similar to Bournemouth-Brighton, if you have Bournemouth-Burnley, sorry. If you are doing these curses, you need to really reconsider your life choices. When it comes to results, Villa overall they have been better at home, despite losing to Southampton. They have won a third of their home games all season. Norwich, on the other hand, away have been quite poor, only winning 1 away game all season against Everton. As for this game, obviously, must win for both sides. I believe that despite their performance against Southampton, Villa are going to pick up the win here. They're going to Dean Smith is going to motivate them, and despite Norwich's maybe renaissance of form, and they potentially to get a draw here, there's no question about that. I believe Villa at home will want the win more. So I'm going to say it will be 2-0 to Aston Villa. We now move on to the Jack Wilshere derby as Bournemouth take on Arsenal in Mikel Arteta's first game in charge of the Gunners. Both sides coming off another week without a loss. Bournemouth losing at home to Burnley in one of the worst games in football history, which I don't think is an understatement. And Arsenal, some also playing in one of the worst games in football history, a 0-0 draw against Everton. The last time these two sides met was in October, where actually these will all be in October, I've just realised. But anyway, where Arsenal came out 1-0 winners against Bournemouth. It was a tight game, if I remember correctly. David Luiz got the winner in the first half. And I should point out it's very one-sided when it comes to the recent history between the two sides. Arsenal winning 7 of the last 9 fixtures between them, winning the last 3 as well. As for this game, look, neither side is on good form whatsoever, but Arsenal have got their new man in charge, Mikel Arteta, and I believe that new manager feel will motivate them to pick up a result here. It won't be like a glamorous one because there is still issues with that Arsenal side, but I'm going to say Arsenal will win 1-0 here. And yes, I have just realised I predicted a clean sheet for Arsenal. Let's ignore that. Bear in mind, Bournemouth didn't manage a single shot against Burnley. So yeah, you know what? That makes more sense now. Arsenal going to win 1-0. We now move on to the Ryan Bertrand derby as Chelsea play Southampton. Both sides coming off crucial wins for them. Chelsea away from home. Chelsea's coming at Spurs, while Southampton's coming at Villa. Obviously, this is two teams at the polar opposite ends of the Premier League. The last time these two sides met, Chelsea came out 4-1 winners at St Mary's, and they have not lost in their last 9 meetings against Southampton. Southampton's last win coming in 2015 when Chelsea were under Jose Mourinho. So it was quite a while ago. Since then, Chelsea have won all but one. As for the form going into this, Chelsea have won 4 of their 9 home games. They've got a very good record at home, only losing 3 games. Actually, that's not that good. Never mind. Southampton, meanwhile, actually have done better away from home this season, winning more away games than home games. So that will take credit after that. And to be fair, considering they lost 9-0 to Leicester, you could probably expect that. As for the game itself, despite Southampton's good performance against Aston Villa, you've got to believe that Chelsea are going to be motivated after that win against Spurs. And while they have slipped up against teams like West Ham and Bournemouth at home in recent weeks, I believe that they will reverse their fortunes this week. And it's Boxing Day. There's always going to be some high-scoring games. And to be fair, looking at my predictions now, there's probably not enough that I've predicted. But this is going to be one of the high ones. I'm going to say it's going to be 4-1 to Chelsea. We now move on to the James Tompkins / Cheku Kouyaté derby. Take your pick as Crystal Palace play West Ham in a London derby. The last time these two sides met, unfortunately, was when West Ham lost 2-1 to Crystal Palace at the London Stadium. And that was pretty much when West Ham's fortunes really took a turn for the worse. Since then, they've only won 2 games, and we played them in October. Just something to think about there. However, West Ham overall have actually been better away this season, winning more away games than home games so far this season. Meanwhile, Crystal Palace have got identical records when it comes to the amount of wins home and away. With regards to recent results, West Ham have actually won more games this season against Crystal Palace in their last 10, winning 4, drawing 4, and Palace winning 2. And West Ham have actually Palace's win against West Ham was their first in the last 8 result in their last 9 actually. Sorry, you definitely couldn't tell I was counting there, could you? Anyway, as for the game itself, obviously West Ham have had a much bigger break as they didn't play this weekend through Liverpool being at the Asia Cup, so that will definitely give them an advantage. However, Crystal Palace are still a very tough side, and I believe for West Ham, as a West Ham fan, we'd take any point. And I should point out, Fabianski is going to be fit for this game. But he will be on the bench. So that's definitely, even though he's on the bench, that's definitely good news for West Ham fans. So overall, I'm going to say that these two sides are going to cancel each other out. And as a West Ham fan, I will take a point here. And I believe it's going to be 2-2 at Selhurst Park. We now move on to the Aaron Lennon derby as Everton take on Burnley. As the last time these two sides played each other, Burnley came out 1-0 winners. And actually, when it comes to the last 9 meetings between the two sides, Everton have won 5, Burnley have won 4. So it's very close. No draws again for this one. So again, that good old curse. Is there a curse? No draw? Again, I doubt it. It's just the way it's worked. When both sides are coming off a second consecutive, another result where they haven't lost. Burnley winning their second consecutive game of beating Bournemouth. Meanwhile, Everton coming off another draw. This one being against Arsenal. This, obviously, the main factor here is the fact it's Carlo Ancelotti's first game in charge of Everton, and similar to Arsenal, I believe that will pull them through. We've seen against Chelsea the reaction Everton players have got from getting a new manager. The reaction Duncan Ferguson got in charge was very good. I believe it will be a similar reaction to Carlo Ancelotti's arrival, and unfortunately for Burnley, they're going to be at the receiving end of that reaction. So I believe Everton are going to win this one 3-1. We now move on to the literally no one you've heard of has played for these two teams derby, and Sheffield United play Watford. Please do tell me if there is anyone that has played for these two sides that you have heard of. Like I couldn't find anyone. This is the first for me. Couldn't find anyone. Both sides coming off wins. Watford's being a very impressive home win against Manchester United. Meanwhile, Sheffield United coming off their third straight win, this one being away at Brighton. Obviously, we've said many times on this channel, the Sheffield United are still unbeaten away from home, but that doesn't mean their home record is not good, as they won 4 of their last 9, only losing, winning 4 of their last 9, but they have lost 4 as well, so it's very 50-50 when it comes to Sheffield United at home. They usually either win or they lose. As for Watford, of course, their main sticking point has been their away form. To be fair, their home form hasn't been much better, but only 1 win away from home all season, coming against Norwich. As for this game now, Watford have improved drastically. They have. This is very close. I could easily see Watford pulling off an upset here and winning. However, I am going to play it safe and say that Sheffield United will not make the same mistakes as the Man United defence did, and not let Watford actually take their chances, because they still didn't look good when it comes to a powers perspective, especially Emile Heskey. He's now going to score a rocket from 30 yards out, isn't he? He's going to do that. Anyway, so I believe Sheffield United, they're going to narrowly win this one. They're going to do it 1-0. We now move on to the Andy Cole derby, the 5:30 kickoff on Boxing Day as Man United play Newcastle. The last time these two sides played, Newcastle won 1-0 at St James's Park, and actually have got 2 wins in the last 4 meetings between the two sides. Out of the last 10, Man United have won the last 6, drawing 2 and Newcastle winning 2. I should point out both Newcastle's wins came at home, and it's potentially not good for them when it comes to the fact they are away, and I'm pretty sure they haven't won at Old Trafford in 20 years minimum. They're coming off contrasting results, however. Newcastle coming off the win against Crystal Palace with Miguel Almiron scoring his first goal for the club. Meanwhile, Man United coming off a loss against Watford away from home. When it comes to home form, Man United have only lost 1 game at home all season, that being against Crystal Palace. Meanwhile, Newcastle away from home have actually have lost most of their games. They've lost 6 out of their 9 away games. However, they've won the other 3, so they haven't drawn away from home all season. Having said that, I believe that this one will actually end in a draw, just from Newcastle's ascension, and it's 9th versus 8th, so it's very close within the league. And Man United still declining. This could easily be a game where Man United win. However, I got a feeling Newcastle are going to pull out nick a point here. Pull out and nick a point. That's a phrase no one's used. No one has used that phrase. But until me, they're going to pull out and nick a point. I'm never using that phrase again. Don't worry. Anyway, this is going to end in a draw, 1-1. And we now move on to probably the biggest game of the weekend, as it is Leicester versus Liverpool. It's first versus second. And then while I could use that as the derby name, who am I? That would be too obvious. Let's do Emile Heskey derby, because that genuinely, I might actually put that in the title, the Emile Heskey derby. That will actually get me some views. Both sides, Leicester coming off their first loss in ages against Man City at the weekend. Obviously, Liverpool not playing at the weekend due to the Asia Cup. In the Premier League due to the Asia Cup, where they did end up winning it. People are saying it's a good result. It's it's sort of expected. The Champions League club wins it. It's good to win a trophy, don't get me wrong, but I think that people are making too much of a big deal out of it. Last time these two sides played, Liverpool nicked a last-minute winner with a penalty from James Milner at Anfield, winning 2-1. And when it comes to the last 10 results, Liverpool have won 6, drawn 2, and Leicester have only won 2, but both of those results have come at home for them. However, Liverpool have not lost in the last 5 meetings between the two sides. As for this game, I believe this is going to be very close, and this is another chance for Leicester really to stamp their mark on the top 4, and this is at home as well, so it's an even better chance. We've seen they've beaten Spurs at home this season. and this is the next biggest challenge at home. And you know what? I'm going to put my neck on the line out here. I'm going to say Leicester are going to win, and I'll tell you why. Leicester are going to be hungry to prove potential critics wrong after the Man City result, and Liverpool are still going to be tired from travelling all the way back from Qatar and the hot weather, and they mix that in with the fact that despite winning, they haven't been playing at their necessarily their best. I believe Liverpool are going to get their first loss on Boxing Day, and I'm going to say Leicester are going to win 2-1 at their own stadium. I'm putting my neck on the line here, and I'm going to say this is going to happen. I will look so good if this comes off, I'm telling you. We now move on to the final game, which is the Jolie and Lescott derby, where Wolves take on Man City. It might as well also be called the reason there's not going to be a review video this week for this game, because it's on Friday at 7:45, and literally there are games the following day. I mean, Wolves and City are not playing in them, but there are games the following day. Why is it scheduled for this? It couldn't even at least be in Friday afternoon, so I could do the review video. Never mind. Obviously, the last time these two sides played, Wolves came out shock winners at the Etihad, winning 2-0, and it was their second victory against Wolves in their last 8 meetings, City winning 5, and there's been 1 draw in between as well. Wolves, since coming back to the Premier League, are a club that look like they have City's number, and potentially as well they could. At home, they've only lost 2 games all season, those being Chelsea and Spurs. So very good chance for them to do something here. City, on the meantime, have looked slightly chasing away, losing to the likes of Norwich and Liverpool. As for this game, as I've said, Wolves do look like they have City's number since returning to the Premier League. So this is easily going to be one of the tightest games of the week. However, despite saying that, I believe that City will grind out a win. They will take on the confidence that they got from the Leicester game, and I think that, and I just have a feeling that City are going to win this one. It won't be too much drama, and they will win it by the same score. Wolves won their game 2-0. So that concludes this week's games when it comes to the actual games. I meant to say week when it comes to the games. Ignore me. So now we move on to the fantasy team. And actually this week I have not changed a single thing when it comes to transfers. I haven't changed anyone round. I have got 2 transfers going on free, so I could definitely reshuffle at one point. But I believe I'm going to stick with this. Schmeichel in goal, Robertson, Shanucci, Lundstrom and O'Connell at the back, De Bruyne, Mane and Grealish in midfield, Abraham, Vardy and Aubameyang up top. Vardy is captain. Kante, Dendoncker and Dunk are all on the bench. The only really, other than the Liverpool players coming back in, the only change I've made is I've dropped Kante to the bench just because I believe O'Connell is going to do slightly better. And, you know, as I say many times, I know now saying this, it's not going to happen, but the easiest points you can get in fantasy football, pro tip, just put Vardy as captain. Easiest points you get. So this is going to conclude this week's predictions. As I've said, there's not going to be a review show for this round of fixtures. Instead, it will go straight to the predictions for week 20. I will mention these games a little bit in that video, but I can't do a separate video on it this week just because, you know, Christmas time and the fixtures are just a pain. So I hope you enjoyed this video. I hope you like, share and subscribe, and I will see you on Saturday for the predictions for week 20.